Mara Scott.
And thank you for tuning in. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time as we help you live in today's world, live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. And boy, they just seem to be hitting home faster and faster and faster. And with more concerning headlines a lot of times than sometimes we think we can bear. And so we hope that somehow listening to this show, we can help you through those hard times, help you through the headlines, always reminding you that you have a Heavenly Father who sits on the right hand. Jesus Christ sits on the right hand of the Father, waiting to intercede for your needs, waiting to hear your prayers, waiting to answer them. We are told that several times in the New Testament, that he's waiting to answer our prayers. David prayed in the Old Testament that I pray in the morning and I wait for anticipation for your answer. So no matter what you're facing, as we head into the holidays, no matter what you're facing, Jesus is there. He is listening, ready to help you through it. And I just want to talk to some of you who may have lost a loved one recently. We've lost several really good family friends lately. And so I know how difficult it can be. We've done shows in the past with Harold Ivan Smith on Decembered grief, and maybe I'll see if I can bring him on an upcoming show and talk about some of that. I know it can be a very difficult time for some of you. I would ask you to just take things slow, don't make any big decisions, and don't not celebrate the birth of Christ, because it is that birth of Christ that gives you the hope of eternal life with those who have passed, if they know Jesus Christ as well. So we'll just ask you to lean on the Lord during this time, and Harold Ivan Smith reminds you to take things as you can. It's different for everybody. And so for those of us who are with the loved ones of those who we've lost, we will have our patience for you. Today on the show, we have got a couple really interesting guests for you. Elaine Donnelly, who is the founder of the Military Readiness Center for Military Readiness, will be talking to us about the latest situation on women in the draft, and we supposedly believe that that's now been taken out of the spending bill, and that we won't be dealing with that, but there was a study commission that was brought forward, so she's going to be clarifying some of that for us. And then Alice Linahan will be joining us a little bit later in the show. Alice is from Women on the Wall out of Texas. She's been an activist on the education issue for quite some time. And remember, she's such an activist that when she starts making things happen, people get nervous. And boy, they really tried to take her on in Texas a little while. And she had to battle back just as a person for the attacks that they brought on her. She'll be talking to us about the nominee for Department of Education, Trump's nominee with Betsy DeVos. I don't know Betsy DeVos. I know it's a big name that a lot of people know. I know her family's given to a lot of great causes. I don't know her. So this is not an attack on her. Betsy, Alice was a Trump supporter. She is a Trump supporter. I'm National Committee Woman for the Republican Party. Obviously, I was a Trump supporter. So we're just going to be talking about accountability and draining the swamp, and talking about maybe helping clarify some things, and helping whoever's listening educate them on some of the situations as well. So we'll be talking about that later. In the meantime, I want to read something to you that I pulled up from the Journal. If you know the Journal, I've got it for those of you who are watching. If you're just new to this show, you can always join us on Fridays at 10 a.m. Fridays at 10 a.m. we do the show live, and we've been blessed to hear that sometimes we have 24,000 people watching at once during the show. It's a little intimidating. It makes me think I should start worrying about things like maybe how I look. But I'm here to give you news, give you the truth that others won't give you, and help you through your day, helping you live God's Word in today's world, as we've talked about. So you can join us at 10 a.m. at webcast1live.com. Webcast1 is spelled out like the number, webcast1live.com. 10 a.m. every Friday, 10 a.m. Central. Or you can join us in Central Iowa on Sundays at noon at 99.3 FM. Sundays at noon, 99.3 FM. That is the Truth Network, KTIA. So the Journal, the Summit Journal out of Summit Ministries out of Manitou Springs, Colorado, this is not new. This is December 2011. Not that I hang on to things too much at my house, but this is exactly why, because they come in awfully handy, and sometimes I forget what I read, and it's a great reminder. This is out of their December 25th. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow described in his beautiful hymn, "The belfries of all the Christendom will roll along. the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill toward men. But few today truly understand the world-changing influence and the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ and what it's had on history. This is from the late Dr. G. James Kennedy and Jerry, I believe the pronunciation is Newcomb. They have a book in 1994 called What If Jesus Had Never Been Born? And he's asking the question, what would the last 2 millennia have been like had Jesus Christ not been born? It's an intriguing question. Most skeptics grudgingly acknowledge that Jesus has had a positive effect on history. But the truth of the incarnation's full impact is mind-boggling. The 19th century poet James Russell Lowell said, "I'd challenge any skeptic to find a 10 square mile spot on this planet where they can live their lives in peace and safety and decency, where womanhood is honored, where infancy and old age are revered, where they can educate their children, and where the gospel of Jesus Christ has not gone first to prepare the way. If they find such a place, then I would encourage them to immigrate thither and therefore proclaim their unbelief." Because the truth is, no matter where you go, look across the globe, and the best places you want to live are the places where Christianity has been. And we hear so much about the freedom of religion in America, the freedom to have a religious exercise as we so choose, and how that goes to other religions. And I would just say to you, those other religions are not equal. It upsets people when we say that, but all things cannot be true. And there's truth in the word of Jesus Christ, the Declaration of Independence, called upon the God Almighty 4 different times, 4 different ways, not 4 different gods. It wasn't an ecumenical document. It was one true God 4 different times, because with the history and the wisdom that our founding fathers used in designing our Constitution, our Declaration, the longest now Constitution across the globe still in existence, they knew that it was foundations, as Patrick Henry said, not on religion, but on Christianity and Jesus Christ. That was the difference. That's what gives us our liberties. That's what gives us our freedoms. That was the difference. And you can look to the Middle East, where they proclaim Islam a religion of peace, and I will ask you to find me one country there where you see peace, where you'd want your daughters to grow up. It is those Christian countries. It is the countries where Christianity has had influence, where we've had innovation, creation, breakthroughs, cures medically. Because the Bible tells you the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And I'll just stop with that. It's been a busy week of headlines. Oh my goodness. We saw the passing of Fidel Castro out of Cuba, and a mix of reviews in the media about not only his passing, but his leadership. And it stunned me to hear the media praising him and treating him as if he were a fellow leader on the pier with many of our other leaders. Goose is producing for us today. Goose, do you have that video, and can we listen to it? Before we go to that, let me see if I can find a link to you. There's a great article, and I didn't have it queued up on my Facebook, but if you will go to the Truth for Our Time Facebook page, or you can go to my Tamara Scott Facebook page. I make these things public so you can see them. There was a great article written called The Dissident, The Dictator and the Dissident, and I think it was Lee Habib as his name. I'll have to check that out to make sure I'm correct in this. I was not familiar with him, but he wrote this story about this dissident, the Cuban dissident who defied Castro. It's in the nationalreview.com. And he's talking about this man who was not only a political prisoner for 27 years, but he was tortured, naked, in a 10 by, I don't know, was it 10 by 4 cell, I believe for 7-8 years with no light, absolutely no light. I'm trying to see this to see if I'm correct. By his own account, young Valladares, his name was Armando Valladares, was an early supporter of Castro's revolution, taking a job in Office of Ministry and Communications for the revolutionary government. He worked as a postal clerk, but all of that changed when he was asked to put a communist slogan on his desk. It comprised 3 simple words: "I'm with Fidel." They trumped up charges. They arrested him. He was in different prison camps for 22 years, so maybe it's 22 and not 27. The first, each night, firing squads executed scores of men. The last year honored him with his, he actually came to America, and he's been honored since by the Beckett Fund, and he's had other honors I want to talk about here shortly. But I wanted to get, they talked about political rehabilitation. You've heard those in the left talk about re-educating Americans, talk about sensitivity training. Think this through. And for all of those leaders who are praising Fidel Castro, who lived in lavish luxury while his people were in poverty, if these folks are praising that, imagine where these folks are ideologically and what they would want for you if they ruled over you. 8 years, Armando Valladares spent locked in a blackout cell without sunlight or even artificial light. He never left. He was stuck in the cell 10 by 4 feet, I was right, with a hole in the corner to take care of bodily needs, no running water, naked for 8 years. All of the torture, the violations of human rights, had one goal: to break the prisoners' resistance and make them accept their political rehabilitation. That was their only objective. Goose, let's go to that video. This is Ken Blackwell in an interview, I believe it's MSNBC.
Done by then. Let's talk about Fidel Castro. Do you think his death should be considered Trump's first diplomatic test? And if so, has he passed?
Look, let me just state so that you have full context. For almost 3 years, I was the U.S. ambassador, Senate-confirmed U.S. ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Commission. My predecessor was a fellow by the name of Armando Valladares. Armando was a prisoner in Cuba, a prisoner of Fidel Castro for 27 years. And President Mitterrand and President Reagan negotiated his freedom, and President Reagan helped him through the naturalization process, and then made him the ambassador, put him right there next to the Cuban delegation in Geneva. And we, in fact, started an all-out diplomatic assault on Fidel Castro's dictatorship. He is in Miami, Florida today. That would be a great interview for you to have. I just want to say to Armando, you outlived him. In fact, you have an end come to that dictatorship, and Donald Trump is saying the right things. You know, he is not.
So I just wanted you to hear that. One, Ken Blackwell did a great job of taking a gotcha question, which is what our media is so known for right now, and turning it into a positive, not only about the situation, telling the truth about Fidel Castro, but then giving that shout out to Armando Valladares. And I think what also this article that I'm reading from Lee Habib on the National Review, and it's called "The Dictator and the Dissident," he never mentioned that Armando became our UN ambassador on the Human Rights Commission. In the article, he never mentioned that. He just talked about the prisoner and how he endured and how he survived because of his faith in Jesus Christ. That's what got him through 8 years in a 10 by 4 cell. Jesus Christ brought him through it. Something for each of us to think about. When we think we're having a tough day, where is our faith? How are we living? Could Jesus Christ get us through? Are we leaning on him? Something to think about, because as we saw in the news yesterday, you never know. You need to be ready. Shoppers at Walmart, gone because of an accidental truck going through the door. You must be ready. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Elaine Donnelly on military readiness as well. Tamara Scott.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. We are trying to reach our next guest, and so forgive me for this because I'm going to try to do this while we're on the air. Trying to reach Elaine, who I know she had a busy schedule today. Goose, if you can come in here, I'll give you this phone number. In the meantime, I'll finish that conversation. How about that? It's live radio, folks. I had just mentioned that you better be ready. I talked about the headlines earlier. Think this through. Monday, kids in Ohio State in a classroom, Watts Hall, and a vehicle comes through the building and a knife or machete wielding. They say it's not a terrorist. Some say it's a lone wolf terrorist. Either way, lives are changed. Wednesday, a truck went through a convenience store right here in Des Moines, and I don't mean to laugh, it's just things are happening so strange anymore. Truck drove through the convenience store on a Wednesday. Thursday, a truck drove through a Walmart store so quickly, so at high speed, that it drove apparently past or through the cement barricades in front of the doors. 3 fatalities, 2 injured last we heard. My point to you is live your life ready, because you never know at what point you're going to meet your maker. It's just that simple. And we talk about things here on earth, and we like to think that we're all Christians, and we like to think we're all right. Where are you? Christmas is a great time to do a reflection, a little internal in a little internal evaluation of where we are. It's a great time to talk with our family members about where they are. Though we shouldn't reduce it to a Christmas time as when we share the gospel, it's a great time to share with them and talk to them about where they are. We have the fires in Tennessee. We have deadly tornadoes in 8 states. Israel's had its shares of fire. We had the plane crash with the soccer team. And today is the 1 year, I hate to say anniversary, of the San Bernardino terrorist attacks. And again, we help you when the headlines hit home. I want you to pay attention to the narrative you're hearing in the news, because I heard it on, I believe it was ABC last night, talking about the fact that part of the problem might have been the company Christmas party. There was a Christmas party, I think it was a health department in California, and they're blaming that for this terrorist attack, even though the two involved had been at the gun range 10 days before, practicing with the guns that they would use apparently in the attack. We're supposed to believe that it was a Christmas party that caused this attack. It was not a Christmas party. It was not the Confederate flag in South Carolina. All of these things are excuses. It was the heart of the individual that caused the attack in both cases. And in the San Bernardino case, it comes back to that religion of peace. So I want you to be very careful about falling into the false narratives. Also, if you follow me on Facebook, you've seen my post. I've kind of ridden the late night host because I get so tired of them ripping apart the political process we've all just been thrilled to come through, and we're thrilled that it's over, and we'd like to come into some other topics and talk about holidays and Christmas. And last night, Stephen Colbert, I stopped in my tracks because I thought he was going to say something positive about our president-elect, who, by the way, has caused more change than most elected officials once they're in office. Many of them haven't done the things he's already done, Obama being one. I can't think of jobs that Obama's really created. So he's talking about how Donald Trump has fulfilled his promise, talked about it all through the campaign, and now he's fulfilled his promise of keeping jobs for the carrier plant. I thought he was going to be positive, and he couldn't take it. He had to then rip into that was unless you were a woman, unless you were a Muslim, and he went through the line and just created this racial, this gender, this strife. I am so disappointed that these folks at late night can't be funny on their own, and that they will risk our peace and our ability to come together as a community for the sake of a few laughs. It just gets really tiresome. And I think he could be a very talented individual, but it's sad that that's what he resolves to. Goose, if we can't get Elaine, if you try her one more time, let's go ahead and call Alice, and we'll go ahead and bring her in. For those of you who are wanting to enjoy the season like myself, maybe you do Advent at home. We do. I haven't gotten it out this year. I'm behind. But if you've not, some churches, I grew up in more of a Pentecostal type church, evangelical church, and they didn't do the Advent wreath at church. And I've never understood that, because I think it's an absolutely wonderful observance. Causes reflection. It gives us kind of a deeper understanding and anticipation of the Savior's birth and what we talk about on Christmas Eve. I think that you should consider doing that at home. How can you teach your children, train your children in a fun way at home? Advent is a great way to do that. They have the Advent calendars that you can buy at the Christian bookstores. You can buy them, I think, even at some of the other department stores, where you can pull something out each day as you count down towards Christmas. That's a great way to do it. We had the actual Advent wreath, and my children, when they were a little bit older, junior high maybe, we would make booklets, and they would design the cover of their booklet, and then they would write the verses that we were studying on that particular week, and then they would write what it meant to them and what it was causing them to reflect and to think about. I still have those booklets. I think it's a great idea for some of you. It shouldn't be heavy or heady. It can be fun as well. This Thanksgiving, I had such a treat. We were sleeping in. We didn't have Thanksgiving Day at our house. We had it the Saturday after. And so that was one of those days we didn't have to be up at 5 o'clock putting a turkey in. We were sleeping in. My son FaceTimed us, and my granddaughter looks at me and says, "Grandma, are you still in your blankie?" Just cracked me up. And then she sang to me a little holiday ditty that we taught her dad when he was a little boy. And I can't tell you how much that thrilled my heart to hear something that we did as parents that he obviously liked and remembered, and he's now teaching to his daughter. And it just talked about being thankful and receiving our blessings and living in one accord. And I was just it just so blessed me. What can you do for your children and your grandchildren that might bless them, teach them, and train them? Because we kept hearing all through the pre-Thanksgiving week, I've never heard this when Democrats win, but I kept hearing it now that Republicans won, that you shouldn't talk politics at the table. You shouldn't talk politics over the holidays. Really? You absolutely should. As a patriarch and a matriarch of your family, because our Christianity is so wrapped up. Remember, it's 4 times in our Declaration. It's in our Constitution. The morality of Christianity are the liberties that we celebrate, the rights endowed by our Creator, the Bill of Rights. They all come back to our Christian heritage. So you absolutely should talk about those things with your family. It doesn't have to be confrontational, but the whole mess that we're in is because a lot of these kids that are out protesting don't understand, one, Christianity. They don't have peace, and they don't understand the civic process, the Electoral College, and the necessity of it. That's why we're seeing some of the messes we are. You need to be talking to your kids about their faith. Alice, did I hear that you've joined us?
I have.
Thanks for popping in early. We wanted to talk to Elaine Donnelly. We'll see if we can get her on another week. Supposedly, just for our listeners, we have dropped the women out of the draft. That was part of the bill, and that's no longer part of the bill, but there is a study committee, so there's still some concern there. And you can still be calling your legislators, if you like, in D.C., because we don't want that situation that studies have shown will slow down our troops and prevent their safety when they're in the heat of combat. So we'll be talking about that more with Elaine. But Alice Linahan, Women on the Wall, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I was just talking to parents about how they can instill things in their children. You might have some ideas on that. What do you do with your family at Christmas time or in the holidays?
Well, you know, the one thing that I remember, it actually makes me tear up when I was listening to you, but what I remember most about the Christmas season was my mother putting up the nativity scene. And she didn't spend a lot of money on it. She had an old set that was her mother's, but she took great pride in it. And that's what I remember. There's smells, there's an atmosphere, and the nativity scene is what I remember. And so when I first got married, that's a birthday gift that my mother gave to me was a nativity scene. So I'm trying to give that gift of that atmosphere to my children. Excellent. And my son and I, my youngest son, who I homeschool now, that was part of our homeschool project, was to put up the nativity scene and talk about it, and get to talk about my mother and my father and my memories.
I love it. I love hearing. I can hear the emotion in your voice. We've had Carol Swaim, a local Iowan, come on here in the past and talk about their nativity scene as well. She puts hers under the tree, and then they collect sheep. I think it was sheep that are from play school toys, sheep that they see that aren't necessarily part of the nativity, but they collect them. And she said her kids would find them and bring them, and they kept adding them because we are the sheep. Jesus is our shepherd, and all sheep are welcome. And they just kept adding the sheep. And I just think it's such a cute story. And of course, then she says, don't leave it at the cradle. Take it to the cross. Teach the whole story while you can. It's perfect time. Perfect time at Christmas. I have the nativity from my mother. Now, I know a lot of people have heirlooms that are worth, money. This was cardboard. You probably could see it in some of the consignment shops, but it was a brown grain. It looked like it was a wood, but it was a cardboard fold-up. And the handy thing about it was it folded up, and so it didn't take a lot of storage. But it had then the ceramic Mary and Joseph and all of the whole nativity set with it. I have that. It is so precious to me. I absolutely adore it. And then, of course, my family helped me collect several nativities recently, and a good friend by the name of Margaret, who is a spiritual mentor to me and a dear friend, has given me a couple of nativities as well. And some of them are just so detailed and have the musician and have the, just not just the kings and the wise men, but all kinds of pieces with them that I've never seen. And it just gives me such joy to get to set them up. I don't have them up yet. For all of you out there, I would say this to you. Don't let what everybody else has done cause you to beat yourself up.
Right.
You will get it set up when you can get it set up at your own schedule and your own timing. Don't allow it to wear on you and be a weight on your shoulders. We have had Christmases at our house, and it amazes me because everybody knows I'm kind of a Christmas crazy, where I have not set up a tree, or I've only put up part of our decorations because the schedule and the busyness that we had with other things we were doing. I used to direct the Christmas plays for our church, and sometimes that was just so much that I couldn't do everything else. So something would have to take a little bit of a break. The whole point of the season is not the decorations in your home, it's in your heart. We'll be right back with Alice Linahan, and we'll start talking about the Bessie DeVots. Stay tuned.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM, or maybe on Friday morning, 10 a.m. on Webcast One Live, where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. I'm talking with Alice Linahan, Women on the Wall, out of Texas. She's been an activist on the education arena for quite some time. We've been talking about just some things we can do, because here's the deal. I was talking about this with someone else. We have so many issues about protecting our children and the right things to do and the health of our children and the car seats that we strap them in, et cetera, et cetera. And then we allow them to go to a public school and be fed hogwash and manure, to be honest with you. And so I don't know how we can be so concerned about the physical safety of our kids when we're allowing, one, their minds to be polluted or to be stifled. And that's part of the concern, I think, and part of the reason that many parents get involved. Alice, part of the reason you're involved. This new administration, you were a Trump supporter. I was a Trump supporter. We're delighted. I don't know if you felt it, Alice, but after the election, I felt like a collective sigh of relief that evening. I think many felt it, other than those who were crying in the streets. For the most part, those of us who love freedom, liberty, and are responsible and grown up enough to take care of our own homes and families, we felt relief.
I definitely did. My whole family did. They were excited because they thought, "Oh, Mom's going to be back now."
Right. Right.
And so, yes, I was elated, and I'm still elated. I think that there is opportunity, and I said early on that we are not going to elect someone to save us. We have to save ourselves. And the way to do that is to understand the issues and to go after those issues in your own local community, in your local schools, in your and then at a state level, and then at a national level, because that really is our job. We are citizens of the United States, and our job is to be a knowledgeable electorate so that we can elect people and inform our elected officials, because they can't know everything about everything. They have advisors and people around them. They have lobbyists. They have all these special interests and people going after them. And it is our job as the citizens who are having to deal with the policies and legislation that is put in place. We're the ones that have to protect our children, and the way to do that is to become informed on the issue and then educate our elected officials on what we want them to do to represent us.
And so by talking today, we are in no way criticizing Donald Trump. We're thrilled with many of the decisions he has made. We were going to talk with Elaine Donnelly about Mad Dog Mattis being his nominee for Secretary of Defense. Many are just absolutely thrilled with that on both sides of the aisle. They can see the strength of that nominee. Betsy DeVos is the name that's been given for the Department of Education. I simply don't know her. I don't know anything about her. But no matter who it is, if we're going to be just in what we do, if our mission is the integrity of the issue that we're dealing with, then we're going to be fair about it. And so I know you have concerns, and I know some other people have concerns. And so, folks, for those of you who are listening or watching Truth for Our Time, we have some links to articles there. And also the Stop Common Core Iowa page has some links on it as well. Alice, what is the concern?
Well, number one, you have to look at her own state. where she has been fully engaged in Michigan. And one of the beautiful things about the Stop Common Core movement is this organic network of moms and dads that has been built. And so we work closely with Stop Common Core Iowa, Stop Common Core Michigan. So when her name was put out, that's the first thing that we went to. What does Karen Braun in Michigan say? Because she's actually been on the ground in Michigan, going to the Capitol and fighting against Common Core. And what we found when we went to Michigan is that, in fact, the organizations that have been founded in Michigan by Dick and Betsy DeVos have been actually fighting against the Stop Common Core movement. In fact, threatening to file suit against the Stop Common Core movement. So that raised red flags for us. And one of the things that people need to understand about the Stop Common Core movement is this is organic. It's not people who have money. It's people who are protecting our children. And so when we look at the issues, people like Karen Braun in Michigan, like myself, who are, conservative Republicans, we understand because we've done an immense amount of research on what the Common Core actually is. And that's one thing that I don't think President-elect Trump fully understands, because the Common Core is basically a philosophy of education, and there are purposes, political purposes behind it. And I don't even know that Betsy DeVos knows. She may very well not know. I believe that's one of the reasons why Phyllis Schlafly, who was one of the leaders in the conservative movement, came out for Donald Trump, as she understood the danger of the philosophy of Common Core, the tentacles behind it, and the real strings attached to it.
And I will say this, I've heard Donald Trump on the campaign trail, and two of his early hires were Sam Clovis on the national level. Sam is from Iowa, Northwest Iowa, and Sam totally understood the danger of Common Core. And Chuck Loudner was with him from Iowa, and Chuck Loudner and I had been speaking out against Common Core for a couple years before that. So I have confidence that Trump wants to do away with Common Core, but like you, I have concern that he may not understand. We've seen states say they're doing away with it as they implement it.
That's exactly right. It's a rebrand. When you look at the purpose behind Common Core, there's 5 key points, and I just want to list these quickly so people understand them. It's a shift in the education philosophy. And when you hear a lot of Betsy DeVos and different conservatives, they say this is a social justice issue. Well, education is not constitutionally a social justice issue. So it's a shift away from an education of opportunity, equal opportunity, to which focuses on academics, reading, writing, math, and history, to an education of equity and equal outcomes. And that's what Phyllis Schlafly was fighting against for so many years, was outcome-based education. That's what we're shifting to. It broadens the impact. What legislation at a federal level and at a state level has done is it's shifted us from a kindergarten through 12th grade system where you graduate in 12th grade and you're free to go and be and do what you want to do. You can go to college, you can go down a vocational path, but you decide. And what this shifts us to is what's called a P20W, preschool through the workforce. The third is it's a shift in the testing it's testing outcomes. It's not testing academics.
Okay, Alice, hold on, because you hear the music, and we've got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll get the last 2 points, and we'll talk about some of the other things that people may not realize are still Common Core, though they're not called Common Core. We'll be right back after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Thanks for staying tuned. And I'm with Alice Linahan, Trump supporters, both. And we're just talking a little bit about the nominee for Department of Education. Don't know her personally. I am told that the family is an evangelical family. Her family has a long history of philanthropy for Christian conservative principles. So we are pleased about that. We're pleased that the nominee was not Michelle Rhea, if I'm saying her name correctly. There are still good things that we want to talk about. Scalia had a quote that said, Justice Scalia, late Justice Scalia, good people have bad ideas, and if you can't separate the difference, you need to find another job. And so this is not an attack on any one person. We just want to make sure that those who are going to fulfill the role thoroughly understand the role and won't be, I hate to use the word duped, themselves, or will understand we are doing our job as citizens and being diligent in our liberty and what's best for our children and our future as a nation, and we will hold you accountable. And Trump would do the same thing. He did it to the Republican Party, though he was a Republican candidate. So I'm hopeful that this doesn't offend anyone, but this is something we need to do to make sure we all stay better. So the P20W, we've talked about on this testing. It's going to be on the results of the testing, not what kids learn. What's 4 and 5?
The number 4 is a shift in ideology, and it changes American children's worldview from nationalism to globalism. You're no longer that kid from Iowa who, played football or was in the band. You're now a global citizen that happens to live in America. The 5th one is to dismantle the traditional public schools in favor of charter-like structures where it's public-private partnerships that will be forced to generate student data for corporate profit and state control. And one of the keys that we understand, whether it's Common Core, college and career ready, the school choice movement, it is an access point for the state and federal government. And unfortunately, global government through the UN to actually track and sort students for jobs in the workforce.
And so I think whether we call it Common Core, whether they come out against Common Core, the concern is the tenets, the underlining tenets. And we hear that she's a large school choice proponent, which is great. We ought to have school choice. But there are concerns behind the phrase, because we get these phrases tacked on. That's a great campaign phrase. It goes well with the voters, so everybody uses it. But there are issues with school choice as well.
Think about it in terms of a parent's parental rights. As a mother, I don't get the right to educate my child the way that I see fit from the state or federal government. That is an inalienable right I have been given by God, and that is actually my duty, as written in the Bible, to educate my own children. So when I buy into the narrative that of school choice, I'm handing my rights as a parent over to the state and federal government to regulate my choices. And to regulate those choices, they have to collect data on my child. That's not freedom. That's not liberty. That's not what made America exceptional.
Plus, we have concerns with the private school movement as well, the charter school movement. Center for Security Policy, I believe, has talked to us about some of those charter schools being funded by the Gulen, and I don't have that information in front of me, so I probably shouldn't even bring it up. But there are issues with the charter schools as well, and that's still tax dollars. Like you're saying, the tax dollars are going to follow the student, and as long as your tax dollars are involved, you don't have the freedom to do with your student as you see fit as a parent.
That's exactly right. Another major concern that I have with Betsy DeVos, and I don't even know if she realizes this, but when you shift the public education dollars through school choice away from academics, teaching children to read and write and do math and know history, to the social emotional learning, whole child learning, you open the door for, and this is what Center for Security Policy has warned about, you open the door for Muslim extremists to come into our schools. And one of the things that the Dick and Betsy DeVos Foundation has funded is what's called Bridges at School. And this is a curriculum developed for American middle school children that teaches using the learning theories and teaching strategies based around the Common Core philosophy of education, of attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors about the Muslim culture and religion. Now, if we had a Christian lessons in the schools, Bible studies in the schools, they would be highly regulated. It's almost like they're setting up a competition between religions.
Funny.
And it's a very, that's not the role of the traditional public school. Our Constitution calls at the state level, not even at a federal level, the federal money is unconstitutional in the first place. But even at a state level, many of the state constitutions call for not diverse, but a knowledge of to the public children. That's what's in our Constitution. And we need to stick with that because the role of teaching attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors goes back to what we were talking about at the first of this call.
That's right.
That's our role as moms and dads and grandparents. And when we hand that right over, we're handing our children over to the state and federal government.
Alice Linahan has been my guest. Alice, thank you for what you do. Women on the Wall, if people want more information, how can they find you?
They can find me at womenonthewall.org or voicesempower, EMPOWER.com.
And she has a conference call in the evenings on Wednesday nights. You can tune in to and learn a lot more about this. She has great speakers come in and do that conference call as well. Alice, thank you for joining me today, and Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
So we've just talked to you about some of the issues that we're facing, and it's not that we're attacking anybody else. We want you to know we're not giving up the fight for our children. And my piece is that Donald Trump so gets this, and he so gets Islam, and so I do think that there will be an ability to come together here on this in some manner. And if he handles this like he's handled other things, the evangelicals, he'll bring people together to work it out. And so I'm hopeful about that as well. I have put up on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page a video link about a gentleman who's hoping someone will come visit him for Christmas. I invite you to go and visit that. If you're in the Des Moines area, the Valley United Methodist Church is having their nativity scenes. You can still see it through Sunday, 10 to 5, most days Sunday, noon to 5. It's a great little display of several nativities. We're out of time. Join me next week for Basil Baz from the Blacklist show. Truth for Our Time.